Hey everyone, today I'm going to look at some of the cool details in Kingdom Hearts 2, and I tell you, it was a lot harder coming up with details to talk about than it was with the first game, but I did manage to pick out some interesting things. As usual, some details are multiple lumped together, and given this game isn't as deep as KH1, it's likely most people will know about these already. But there's a reason I don't call these videos 10 things you never knew about X game, because I'm trying to point cool details out, not surprise or clickbait people. Anyway, let's see what KH2 has to offer. With KH2, it's unlikely you'll find that much detail in the world spaces, so instead let's look at the game interface. When you enter an area, you get a pop-up showing the room name. I wanted to point out the effort made into making these names different from each other. Take for example the Sunset Terrace area of Twilight Town. The title has this up and down font to represent all the steps and, well, the terrace. Other areas of Twilight Town have different styles too. As for other worlds, they tend to stick to one design, with the font being thematic to the world, like with Agrabah here, or the twisted text of the world that never was. They're not that different room to room, but I still think it's cool how they've been designed, and how thematic they are. It's a subtle thing that adds to the fantasy of each world. While you're taking part in the struggle matches, you never fight Seifer due to him being beaten by the Dusk masquerading as Vivi. However, in between your matches, you can go brawl with him in the back alley outside the sandlot. I think this is a pretty interesting thing to include. It's quite KH1-like in that it's giving you something to seek out for yourself, rather than forced upon you. It acts as a pretty neat world building too. Seifer and his crew of course make excuses if you win, how typical of them. And this feature is hinted at by Mr. NPC standing beside the sandlot. I didn't know about it until fairly recently though, so for me, it was a nice find indeed. Staying in Twilight Town, and it's another missable gameplay detail. Do plenty of jobs, and Roxas will get enough money to be commended by his digital friends in an alternate version of the text dialogue scene, instead of the ones you get for getting a low amount of money or an average amount. The best part is the 2 additional AP you get. It might not be that useful in the grand scheme of things, but I just like this early game boost and how the game rewards you for going the extra mile, and it even makes sense with it remarking that the extra jobs you have done have made you more dexterous, which is a nice touch. The proof of existence is already a disturbing detail to have in the game. Literal gravestones of the organisation members existing in their home base. The name is a cruel thing, since as nobodies they don't really truly exist. All the more motivation for them wanting their hearts back before they knew the truth about regrowing hearts. Xemnas' Roman numeral 1 can be seen above the main exit too. But the main detail to point out here is Zexion's proof. It's the most ruined of all of them, and the reason for that was to obscure his weapon, as at this point in time in the original KH2, he hadn't been seen with one. So in order to not spoil the reveal of his lexicon, it was covered up. The result is a pretty savage looking destruction on his epitaph. It works pretty well alongside the rest of this depressing, ruined place. Side note about Zexion, the gambler nobodies have cards with the faces of Lexius, Vexen, Marluxia and Larxene on them, which is a cool detail that they have the Castle Oblivion members on them, but Zexion isn't represented for whatever reason. But hey, it gave me an excuse to lump these 2 details together, so that's a win in my books. Ever noticed when you're in a wandering party room, Donald and Goofy sometimes start chatting to each other? Often when you get close, they quickly break it up and look at you. Seems suspicious to me, almost like they're gossiping about you. Okay, being serious though, this is a really small detail that I actually like. It makes them feel a bit more detached from just being in your party, and adds a bit of that wonderful word immersion to the place that you're in. One can just imagine the sorts of things they're chatting about, and I think that's pretty cool. Also, I just appreciate these moments for giving you a chance to get some thoughts from your allies. This has to be the ultimate in cool details for KH2. We all know the lucky emblems in KH3, but the concept of sneaking in Mickey's head / the logo of a gigantic corporation has of course been around for far longer than that. And how typical of KH2 to do this in its menus given its bare bones world design. But I'm being harsh there because this is actually really cool. Every command menu in KH2 has a hidden Mickey emblem on it, Some are fairly simple to spot, like this Radiant Garden one, or the Colosseum, with it being the shields here. Others are damn subtle, like the smoke in the Underworld menu, or the brief flashing up ones, like with the Chain of Memory style command menu. That's another nice detail, by the way. Even the Badlands Lingering Will boss fight area has its own. It's super cool. If you didn't know about all of these, I've linked a picture of them in the description. Or you could go hunting for them yourself if you really wanted to. Hey, at least there aren't 90 to find. The whole intro with Roxas has plenty of cool details, two of which I've already mentioned in this video. But wait, there's more. For a start, the echoing of Sora's dive into the heart is just wonderfully done. With the same movements as the Twilight Thorn appears compared to when the Dark Side appeared, and even it having the appearance of an orc coat initially, a hint at Roxas' shrouded past, and a reference to Sora seeing his shadow in the KH1 equivalent. The most subtle detail though is on the 6th day intro, when Roxas is fading in and out of Sora briefly as he gets out of the bed. When the doves fly past the window, there's a split second where his whole appearance changes to Sora's. It's very missable, and while many people probably know this by now, it's still so cool and also slightly disturbing, not gonna lie. Props to the cutscene department on this one. I didn't really pay much attention to this before, but the way the dry forms affect Sora's Haloweentown costume is just great. Namely, the mask that Sora has on the side of his face. There's the regular one, then Valor form has this twisted devil looking mask, Wisdom has this very apt caster slash mage looking Heartless with a pointy hat. Then Master form is those two stitched together representing its balance of magic and strength. Limit form has a very KH1 looking heart with red and black, Sora's theme colours. Final form has this crown, so there's a way to get a crown without getting the actual crown. And finally, Anti-form has this Shadow Heartless, which again makes sense. They're all really fun, inventive ways of showing the dry form, without affecting his Halloween appearance at all, and I'd say the art is fantastic. You know KH2 might have less detail to talk about if I'm making a point about Moogles, but I genuinely didn't realise that the Moogle shops throughout the worlds are hologram projections. This is probably common knowledge and I'm just blind, but I never thought to take notice of them. So yeah, they don't actually live in these little containers, but they're projecting holograms and digitally receiving and giving you items through teleportation? I don't know, it's quite amazing how powerful these Moogles are to have technology that transcends worlds. Oh, also the names are names of Moogles from other Final Fantasies, such as 10, there's a lot taken from there. And Stiltskin, who from my limited knowledge of Final Fantasy, is a recurring Moogle in the series, and I totally didn't just find that out from the wiki. Ah, what the heck, one more thing, on Selphie's purse is a Moogle charm. There's loads of little details that I'm not sure I could talk much about, so I've reserved this 10th spot to mention some. In Anti-form, Sora hangs from ledges by his foot, it's pretty cool. In Final form, Magnet lasts a shorter time, but actually picks up items and bubbles on the floor or from enemies, and sends them straight to Sora, unlike its normal counterpart. Credit to this tweet, as that's where I learnt that. When Sora and Riku shoot Xemnas with a friendship-powered light beam at the end, Sora's holding Riku's Weighted Dawn backhanded, like Ventus might do. In the secret ending, Ventus picks up the Weighted Dawn and holds it four-handed. It might not be intentional, but it's a cool parallel if you like that sort of thing. The lines uttered when Auron's statue is taken by Sora, Dawn and Goofy are revoiced lines originally from Final Fantasy X. Leon reads a letter in the KH2 credits, and angel wings fly out. This is a reference to Rinoa from Final Fantasy VIII. He also has wings on the back of his jacket to reference this. The Stitch summon being on the game screen with him licking your MP bar and such, that's fun. Also, I discovered you can't walk backwards through rooms when you're in first person, but there are some cases where you can, like with the portal in The World That Never Was, and the transition in Atlantica. Phew, I think that's enough of those to mention. KH2 does actually have a lot of really nice detail. I'd say that the Kingdom Hearts series as a whole has plenty, even if KH1 does take the crown for the most richly detailed game. I would have talked about the great sound design in KH2, but I might cover that and the sound design in the other games in its own video, that would be cool. Of course, as always, leave your favourite KH2 details in the comments below. You can join the Discord, follow me on Twitter if you want, all that lovely stuff, and I'll hopefully see you again in the next video. Thanks for watching.